morning, everyone. I will call this Waupaca County Board of Supervisors adjourned annual session to order on this Tuesday, December 17th, 2013. Please press your roll call buttons.
Attendance shows all 27 members present.
This meeting and all other meetings are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with the Wisconsin state statutes, so the citizenry may be aware, time, place, and the agenda of this meeting. As we stand for the silent meditation pledge to the flag, please, in our silent meditation, remember that Chief Deputy Al Krager's mom passed away, and please remember her in your prayers and thoughts, and the family too. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You all received the agenda in the mail.
And there is a copy on your desk. There was last minute changes on Friday, so it was posted properly and correct, but I did not remail it out to you. We did change it to read adjourned annual session. Also, under appointments, there was an added ITVAC board appointment that we needed to place on it.
With that note, we need a motion to approve. Mr. Handrick has so approved, and a second by Mr. Kussman. Any other questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 27-0.
Likewise, the minutes were sent to you. There's a motion by Mr. McClone for approval, and the second by Mr. Jonley. Any other questions or discussion regarding the minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 27-0.
The next item is report and award presentation. Vice Chair Lawhern and ESRI Special Achievement and GIS Award to Ian Grassoff, GSI Coordinator and Land Information Officer for Waupaca County. Vice Chair Lawhern.
Waupaca County Land Information. Ian Grassoff, GIS Coordinator, received a Special Achievement Award for exceptional application of geospatial.
Spatial.
What is it, Mary?
Spatial. Geospatial.
Okay, technology. Waupaca County Land Information received a Special Achievement in GIS SAG Award at the Esri International User Conference in San Diego, California, held July 10, 2013. This award acknowledges vision, leadership, hard work, and innovative use for Esri Geographic Information Systems, GIS technology. Waupaca County Land Information uses Esri ArcGIS technology to track areas causing unexplained booms in the city of Clintonville. Organizations from around the world honored at the Esri UC span industries include agriculture, cartography, climate change, defense and intelligence, economic development, education, government, health and human services, telecommunications, and utilities. The SAG Awards identify the organizations and people that are using the power of geography to improve our world and drive change, says Esri President Jack Dangermount. At Esri, we are always deeply inspired by the passion and innovation of our users. They deserve recognition for both solving their community's greatest challenges and for their invaluable contributions to the continued evolution of geographic science. Ian Grassoff, GI Coordinator. In 1989, Wisconsin Land Information Program and the Wisconsin Land Information Board was created by Wisconsin Act 31. A standalone Land Information Committee was established on December 15, 1992, and a Land Information Officer was appointed to oversee the County Land Records Modernization Program. Aon came to Waupaca in May of 2005 and has been a real asset to Waupaca County Land Information Department, Waupaca County. On March 19, 2012, calls began to come in to the local Quintonville police station with citizens concerned about loud bangs, booms, and strong shaking. On March 23rd, the United States Geological Survey confirmed that 1.5 magnitude earthquake hit the Waupaca County community of Quintonville. Throughout the entire incident, GIS was used to help investigate potential sources of the mysterious booming and shaking. Also, GIS was an important tool to help share information with officials and public and the media, both national and local. And I might add that Ian and his office do many good things for Waupaca County, and they help many of the departments, such as the Register of Deeds, zoning, highway information systems, the realtors organization. And this office is a real asset to the county. So I'd like to congratulate Ian for a job well done. So Ian is coming up to show us a little video, I think.
Well, I actually have about a half-hour presentation I'd like to share with you guys. I realize that a lot of you probably aren't really familiar with what GIS is and what our office does. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to not only talk about the award, but I don't really want to focus on that. I just kind of want to show you guys some of the things that our office does and how it benefits the county. So let me see if I can get this projector fired back up. So there's the illustrious award. So what is a geographic information system? Is anybody bold enough to say they think they have an answer? Probably not. So today I'm going to cover what GIS is and give you a definition, and I'm going to share with you a video that kind of gives a good overview of how local government can use GIS. And then go over some examples of what you can do with GIS, explain what our office does and what our role is, talk about our customers and how they obtain information, and then leave it open for some questions. So I'm going to get right into it. This definition comes from ESRI or Esri. They're the software vendor that creates our GIS software. You can think of them as like the Microsoft of the GIS world. They are pretty much, I would say they have probably 90% of the market share. They provide software for your desktop, for your smartphones, for the servers, They provide a lot of different packages. A lot of their customers are local governments, state governments, cities, federal government, military, utilities, healthcare, logistics, things like FedEx, UPS, they use it. For like navigation companies like Trimble, Microsoft, they all actually use this software. So something that probably a lot of you aren't even aware of. It's kind of in the background. I'm kind of the guy in the back office that creates the maps, but there's a lot that goes into it. So a geographic information system integrates hardware, software, and data for capturing, managing, analyzing, and displaying all forms of geographically referenced information. Now I realize that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but if you just, when you watch this next short video, kind of keep that in mind, and it gives some examples of some good visuals of what that definition means. This is a video from Penn State. It's called the Geospatial Revolution. If you want to, they have a whole series of videos. If you're ever bored and you want to check it out, there's the URL. And this is chapter 1. It's called Creating an Interactive City. Now, they didn't have any videos specific to county government. This is the city of Portland. So we're not going to have the exact type of system, but it is similar, and some of the things that they talk about are things that we've done here. So hopefully you guys can hear it in the back there. I don't know how these speakers are going to carry. We'll see. And the video didn't play. Looks like this computer's pretty old. Having a little trouble with opening these files here. There we go.
More than half the world's population is now urban. Geographic information and maps are helping city governments become more democratic and participatory.
Portland has invested in geospatial technologies because it saves us money, it improves our services, our relationship with the people that we're here to serve.
We created Portland Maps to give easy access to citizens for crime data, transportation, property information, where all the pipes are, the utilities, all sorts of information. We like the fact that the general public can get access to all of the types of data that we see here.
Ian, if we put the microphone down, you're going to feedback.
We were one of the first in the country to implement computers and GPS on board all of our buses. We've got this centralized database and all this information, and real-time location of the buses is available for everyone through the internet and our customer service department.
What time are you thinking of?
Because of that, we're able to build mapping applications that allow better informed decisions. We can see that the number 15 is due to arrive in 9 minutes. We can also turn on 6-inch aerial photography. We also have links to Street View so that people can know what to expect. Let's pull up more detailed information about that stuff. For instance, crosswalks, curb cuts, lighting, if someone has a disability. Knowing if there's a crosswalk or a curb cut there is very important. Some of the applications provide real-time information out in the street. This application is called PDX Bus. And right now it's using GPS and our services to
to tell you that the eastbound MAX is arriving right now.
Because of civic apps for Greater Portland,
Our mayor challenged us to create a way for mobile users to catalog issues around Portland. PDX Reporter is an app that anyone can install on their mobile phone. We have some graffiti. You can take a photo of it and send it in with the GPS coordinates.
suddenly I had tens of thousands of eyes and ears because of PDX Reporter. It gives us good feedback in real time that's geographically coded and therefore useful for us to follow up on.
As soon as I submit the report, I'm actually able to get back a detailed status of where this incident is at in the city's system.
The Bureau of Planning and Sustainability does long-range planning to inform future development or redevelopment. What do we want the city to look like in 25 to 50 years? That's an awful lot of analysis. You have to address economic development, you have to address housing, you have to address environmental issues, etc. We couldn't do any of this without GIS. For the first time, we have a 3D building model for the whole city. And that's possible because the whole region now has LiDAR data.
With LiDAR systems, the satellite or aircraft beams down to the Earth. The beam bounces back up. They gather information based on the return of objects on the ground. So you end up with a very good terrain model.
At laser point accuracy, literally, we can take our information and actually start to visualize things three-dimensionally.
Instead of worrying about what if a proposed building threw a shadow all over the park, we did a shadow analysis using the GIS to calculate that it doesn't really impact the park. People went out and measured it, and we were within 2 feet, I believe. The city says you can't build anything that's going to block the view of the mountain from up on the hill. With the GIS, we're able to do sightline evaluation to prove that proposed buildings would not block the view of the mountain. And that made people happy. The city has set a goal that 90% of all Portlanders will live within walking distance of most of the things they need by 2025. It's really resonated with the public. So we did a statistical analysis of the areas that are not 20-minute neighborhoods. They don't have any sidewalks, or the terrain is too steep, or there's no transit here, or there's no grocery store. So there's all sorts of things that we can answer now because we can overlay all of this data one on top of the other.
I think our investments improve the way that we perform our work as a city government. It just makes good business sense.
So I think that gives some good visual examples of how one city is using GIS. And I'm going to show you some things that what you can do with GIS and these all I have examples of how we've done things here. So with GIS you can map where things are, you can map quantities, you can map densities, you can analyze data relationships, you can find out what's nearby other things, you can map out change, and you can also integrate other database systems. So this is an example of mapping where things are. What this is actually a recent map that we just did is a tax bill mailing locations. So what this is basically every piece of land in Waupaca County, this is where all the tax bills are being sent. And the larger the circle, the more addresses or the more property owners live there. And if it's more than 10, it basically got a city name. So you actually can kind of visually see where some of the county or some of the landowners in the county are coming from. Kind of surprising, unless you see it on a map. It's one thing to actually like see a list or get a report, but to actually see it on a map across the country, it's one way that GIS can display information. Actually, you're not seeing Alaska, but that's where these lines are going. And here's a more close-up regional view of the same map, the regional tax bill mailing locations. And surprisingly, the majority of the people inside the state are clustered in this area, and then also down around Milwaukee where you have, you know, a good transportation route. Unless you, like I said, see this on a map, it's kind of, you don't really know until you map it out. Here's an example of mapping quantities. GIS can display information in a various number of ways, and this is looking at property tax assessments, value per acre, basically looking at it in 3 dimensions. So the higher the spike and the darker the color would be higher value property per acre. So basically taking the tax assessment and dividing it by the property size and looking at the data that way. So here I've marked a few locations. Obviously you can see here's the Channel Lakes, and here's Waupaca, here's Clintonville up here. So you definitely can see, you know, the spikes in where the development is, and then you can see the little peaks where there's other, you know, rural properties. And obviously all the green is the ag land, and then the blues are things that are tax exempt. Things like here's, you know, Hartman Creek State Park, some of the state lands along here. This is a lot of MFL and the forest programs where they're not paying much for tax. And then here's an example of mapping density, and this would be the mapping out 911 calls during that Clintonville earthquake. It's one thing to see a list of calls, but to actually map out the locations, you can kind of start to see a pattern of a density of where the calls were coming from. And this was essentially like the epicenter of the calls for that event. And while this wasn't obviously a real earthquake that caused any damage, for me this was a good exercise in emergency response, being able to take this information and quickly generate maps and run analysis and get information out to the public in short order. I guess it was like an advanced training exercise for me. If there was a real disaster, GIS would play a critical role in responding. Here's an example of analyzing data relationships. So what you have over here is this is actually a tornado that touched down in 1984. The National Weather Service publishes historic tornado data. So this is a tornado from 1984. This was the path it took, and it was approximately this wide. So using that information, I took data from the National Weather Service, and what these are all properties that could potentially have been affected by that tornado. So you could do a real quick, rapid assessment of a situation. Now obviously people would need to go and check on the ground and verify things, but it would give you an idea of how many potential properties could be affected. We're looking at 315. And then if we wanted to take it further, we have information about the land and real estate. We could then use these locations to select properties and figure out approximate values of the land that could have, or the structures that could have been affected. Here's an example of finding what's nearby. This is a screenshot of a web application that I developed that basically is something that's in testing for the zoning office, being able to see all their field inspections for land use and shoreline permits, and being able to see it all on a map when they're actually out in the field. They can actually see what's near them and see inspections that they need to complete. And this information is actually pulling from another system, their database. I don't need to go and automatically put these dots on the map, or they don't need to put these dots on the map. The GIS system is pulling the data and mapping it out basically kind of automatically through some processes. And then when they close out an inspection, it disappears off the map. So now they're able to go from a paper-based system to digital and be able to get this information in the field off of, say, like a tablet or a laptop computer. And here's an example of mapping change. And what this is one of the primary pieces of data that we maintain is the tax parcels, property boundaries, and that's what this is. And this is basically 3 years of our parcel edits in 30 seconds. So all of our data, when we edit it, it records when the change was made, and you can play that back over time. It'll start to animate, and this is basically 3 years worth of editing. And the parcel editing is one of the primary things that we do, along with address maintenance. There's a lot of data maintenance that needs to happen to keep this stuff current. And you'll see that this is a lot of these little changes. While they might not look like much, some of these things can take quite a while because you need to do a lot of research on the recorded documents and surveys to map it out. It's not always cut and dry. You have to do quite a bit of homework, I guess you could say, on it. So there's an example of being able to map change. Let's stop this. And then I don't expect you to memorize this or even understand what's going on, but this is basically an example of creating database systems. So GIS can take other databases and other systems maintained by other departments and pull it all together and display the information on the map. This is kind of the same type of process that happens to map out those zoning site inspections. You know, there's processes that run and pull stuff from two different database systems and essentially map it out. So GIS is pretty good at integrating different database systems. Wherever the data is stored, it can pull that information and turn it into a map. So the land information, our role, it's actually myself and then one other person, Jason McKeefer, he's our GIS specialist. We basically maintain and provide access to the county's GIS. And we do that with internal desktop software, that ESRI software that you've heard that name a few times today. And then also through web applications. So you don't need any specific piece of software, you can just access our data through your web browser. And then we also have to create and maintain all that data that's stored in the GIS. Things like address data, property boundaries, emergency service districts, zoning information, municipal boundaries, supervisory district boundaries, voting wards, all that stuff is in our system. We can use that system to generate reports, create maps, create applications, run analysis, and then also distribute our data to both internal and external customers. And then also a big part of what we do is we maintain the address data that's vital to the E911 computer-aided dispatch system. Our address data gets loaded into the dispatch system so that when a 911 call comes in and a dispatcher types in an address, it uses our stuff to plot out that location. So that's a vital service that we provide. And then as far as our internal customers, basically the county departments that we provide services for, and I have to say this, we provide services to all the departments if they request it, but these are some of the things that we've done for other departments. So the county clerk, we've, district boundary maps. You guys might remember the redistricting and some of the census stuff. That was our office that worked on that. Voter registration for the county clerk. They use our data to help verify voter locations. For the county treasurer and property listing, that's the tax parcel mapping. Health and Human Services, we've done radon test result mapping. We have an application where people can see radon test result data. Highway Department uses it for capital improvement planning, right-of-way plat design. They also have a sign inventory. Information systems, we've done things like communication layouts as far as like the wiring diagrams for the courthouse, floor plans, that type of stuff, infrastructure planning. Land and water conservation, we've used it for conservation easements, and then nutrient management planning for farmers for spreading nutrients. Park and recreation, pretty much general park maps, reference maps. They use our system to get the aerial photos and view property boundaries. Planning and zoning, comprehensive planning maps, zoning maps. If any of you have been involved with comprehensive planning, you know that involves a lot of maps and a lot of information. The Register of Deeds, we've done some system integration where people that are online viewing documents in the Register of Deeds system can get access to our GIS and view the property boundaries and stuff. And the other way, if they're in the GIS, we've got it set up so it drives them to get documents from the Register of Deeds office. And Sheriff Emergency Management, like I mentioned before, the E911, the dispatch system, emergency response, and then they also use it for investigations. University of Wisconsin Extension, and mailing lists, queries, statistics, and then we also have an app for viewing farm site visits, similar to the zoning one, where they can see calls that they would, and visits they'd like to make to different farms to talk about programs, and they can see all that on a map and help them schedule, basically scheduling visits. As far as our external customers, people outside the Waupaca County government, other government agencies, cities, towns, villages, surrounding counties, regional planning commissions, state agencies, the Wisconsin DNR, Department of Revenue, Department of Transportation, Administration, Ag Trading, Consumer Protection. Federal government would be like Census and FEMA, National Geodetic Survey, NOAA, Postal Service, USGS. And then private businesses are assessors and appraisers, attorneys, builders, engineering firms, farmers, GIS data providers. People like Microsoft and Google actually download our data and integrate it into their products. Lenders, realtors, surveyors, the title industry, and then also utilities. This is, obviously this list is, these are the main users. There's probably some I'm not even aware of that are using it. And then also just the general public. They like to look at their properties, see the property boundaries, view aerial photos, print maps. And our external customers are primarily using through our website, and the internal customers are using our desktop software and then the web applications as well. So if you want to see what we have available, you can go to the county website and just click maps, and you'll get to a gallery of our featured applications. And there's some other things in there, but we have basically 6 main GIS applications, and the 2 that get used the most are the Land Records Viewer and the Planning and Zoning Viewer. And between those 2 sites, the Land Records Viewer and the Planning and Zoning Viewer, basically people can view property boundaries, turn on aerial photos, search for addresses, print maps, see floodplains, wetlands, zoning information. They can do measurements and get areas and stuff from there using tools. Between those 2 sites, we've got about 42,000 visits per year from 18,000 different people. So that, if you're just figuring 365 days a year, that's an average of 116 visits per day. But if most of the traffic occurs during normal business hours, like you'd expect. People really aren't using it much on the weekends. So if you're just looking at normal business days, that's about 163 visits per day. Generally, if there is an issue and for some reason something's not available, I mean, the phones ring quite a bit. People can go in and get information themselves, and when they can't get it from our website, they have to call, and people have to basically field a lot more questions. So if there is a problem, we definitely know about it pretty quick because it gets used quite heavily. So here's just a map of the world, and this is from Google Analytics. This is the site usage, and you can see across the world where people have come from to access our GIS sites. Obviously, the United States is going to be the primary user, but there's people from all over the world that somehow just found our sites and were checking it out. And here's Wisconsin, and actually Wisconsin accounts for about 82% of our traffic, which would make sense, right? And you can see the clusterings around the Fox Valley area and around Waupaca County. And then if you look, here's the tax bill mailing information, that map you saw before, overlaid with the usage. And here's kind of an example of how you can compare 2 different data sets in GIS. You're looking at people that are using our website and locations where people live that own property in the county. And you can, I mean, it makes sense, right? It kind of correlates. People that own property in the county are going to want to be looking at it from our websites. And that's essentially what you're seeing. And without GIS, you couldn't give a definitive answer to something like that. Now you can actually kind of see that, people, like I said, people that own land here want to look at it through our websites. And that's actually all I had. I hope you guys have a couple questions for me. If not, that's it.
Questions for Ian? Mr. Fleece.
It was good to see where all the rich people live in the county.
Jeez. Yeah. The other thing too is keep in mind manufacturing is in there. We're looking at everything. So what would be interesting is to just show residential and then look at manufacturing separately. Some of those spikes were actually manufacturing and the Chain of Lakes, which obviously that's where the rich people are. So.
Any other questions for Ian?
You want to see that again?
You said no one in Idaho.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
When you speak, please speak in your microphone so we can all hear.
All right, and if you guys want to learn anything more, my door's always open. Stop by and I can kind of show you some of this stuff on screen. Oh.
When I go on your site and I look at, your property line values, those aren't really the legal one. It's a general estimation of where it is. Is that correct?
That is correct. A survey or a real estate document is the official, recognized document through the courts, but Our stuff is as close as we can get it. It's a good reference, but it's not going to hold up in court against the survey. We work from the deeds and the surveys, and there is no other source of all these things put together into one giant puzzle, essentially. So it's a good reference. It's got a lot of uses.
I think it's interesting when you go on and you have the maps from 2000 and before, where you can see how things have developed within your area or the county, and the different, you know, photographs that are actually there. It's just a fun site to visit. I encourage everybody, if they haven't gone out there, to click into it.
I also think, I was looking at this yesterday, you can see the clustering of, these are actually lakes out here. And you can see the higher property values around bodies of water, which is to be expected, but it's not something you'd see unless you map it out like this.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian, very much. Very, very informative, good stuff. Thanks. Excuse me. Next, we have the pleasure of and the honor of having one of Waupaca County's most successful industrialists here this morning, Mr. Rick Rechtenwald. I can call Rick a personal friend of mine. He sits on the Waupaca County Economic Development Corp. Along with myself and Mr. Penny. And his word is constantly listened to, very knowledgeable in the industrial manufacturing and economy world. And I've asked him to come here to talk today about manufacturing, the economy. He'll have a lot of good words of wisdom. You know, we in Clintonville, of course, are prejudiced, but the city of Clintonville has led many communities, plus Waupaca County in recent years, in the percent of new construction, net new construction. Clintonville's near 3 again this year, maybe 2.9, where Waupaca County is only 0.85. Now, Clintonville has done this for about 2 or 3 years in a row. Not only led Waupaca County, but many counties, many even larger communities in net new construction. And that's because of shakers and movers and entrepreneurs like Mr. Rechtenwald of Walker Forge and the Clintonville administration's use of TIF districts, which we'll also have a presentation in months to come about TIF districts. It's always good for we supervisors to know the ins and outs of TIF districts, which aren't always easy to understand. But I have to say that Rick, as the plant manager or the boss down at Walker Forge, has forged Walker Forge to the head of being Clintonville's biggest industry. Rick, can I have you come up here? And I think he has maybe a slide presentation. And thanks so much for coming up in his slippery roads, Rick.
A couple of things I'd like to point out. Always trying to draw attention to our facility. We are the Wisconsin Manufacturer of the Year. In Waupaca County, there have been a couple. Walker Forge was the 2012 Large Manufacturer of the Year. And I'll show you how that was possible. But what I'd like to do first is explain a couple things. I was able to because of, let me say one thing. How many people are overwhelmed with Ian's technology? Is that everybody? It should be everybody. I, 35 years ago, was a participant in a curriculum called computer science, where they invented this gnarly thing called a personal computer that sat on your desk that was this size. And the only reason that I bring it up is it's only been 35 years. There wasn't a map, there wasn't a satellite, there wasn't software. I don't even know if geospatial was a word. You'd have to go check, I don't know. And yet, in today's day and age, the manufacturing community is completely dependent on our ability to digest technology and, more importantly, apply technology. When I get to the end of my presentation, what you're going to see is land, it's not really important. Equipment, probably not really important. Money, probably not all that important. The thing that is the most important, and I don't think this should shock any of you, is every education system that there is. Because if you don't put the accelerator down to make smarter people, the jobs, the investment, everything will go, however, by geospatial satellite to where that talent is. And it happens right now, you just can't see it. Walker Ford, 1950, a Wisconsin-based company. Walker Ford started in 1950. Walker Manufacturing, 1900 in Racine, Wisconsin. So the Walker family has been part of the Wisconsin manufacturing network for over 100 years. Any hot rodders, car hot rodders? The Walker muffler, that would be the Walker manufacturing family. Let's see, Clintonville plant, basically, Gordon Walker, 2 generations ago, needed a place to go. The Racine facility did not want to innovate, did not want to change. Whether you're in 1975, 1875, or 2075, if you don't want to innovate, if you don't want to change, you will die. All the jobs will be gone, all the investment will be gone, and the geospatial Ian will have, instead of a giant red spike in Clintonville, Wisconsin, that is probably the highest tax dollar per square foot, will be this tall. It doesn't matter whether it's across the street where I passed, whether it's in Milwaukee, whether it's in Newport News, Virginia, or Newport Beach, California. If you can't compete, you just are done. Okay, so this document right here, through computer technology, I have to give Mr. Keppen, as Mayor Keppen, invited me to make a similar speech to the City Council of Clintonville, Wisconsin on January 9th, 2001. So I took a bunch of the data that we have and compared those 2 times. About 12 years since Dick asked me to speak. Now it's at the county board level. We were 12,000 square feet, but about that time we were around 150,000 square feet. Right now, under roof in Clintonville, Wisconsin, almost 500,000 square feet. We were about, in the late 1990s, we were about 190 people. Right now, we are 400 in Clintonville. But our size is almost 3 or 4 times the size. So that paradigm, for every dollar that you increase your revenue, you get this many more jobs, it ain't happening. If it took 1/10 of a person to get $1, today that dollar only produces 1/100th of 1/10 of a percent, and that's all because of technology. So right now we're very large to what we were. We've even bought a Ford shop in Tennessee, Seguinville, Tennessee, the northeast corner in the Smoky Mountains. We make things out of steel. Steel is heavy. Steel has to be moved. Moving anything in the United States of America costs a fortune. We read about it every day. Are they going to build planes in South Carolina? Are they going to build them in Everett, Washington? Everybody's competing to hang on to this manufacturing nest egg. And I'm hopefully going to show you at the end why everybody is cutting each other's throat to hang on. That's how important it is. So let's see. So we bought a place in Tennessee where there's an awful lot of manufacturing, where there's an awful lot of cheap energy, the inputs to manufacturing. Here's a little video. I don't have the luxury of a state university in State College, Pennsylvania, but we did have the Fox Business News produce a video. that was on Fox Business News.
Hi, this is John Criswell. Welcome to Manufacturing Marvels. For over 60 years, Walker Forge has been a leading full-service manufacturer of complex carbon steel and alloy steel forgings. An experienced, highly trained workforce applies state-of-the-art manufacturing technologies, processes, and procedures that give their customers what they need most. Consistent, long-lasting forgings to withstand the extreme tests their customers' products face every day. Walker Forge's customers are widely recognized as leaders in their respective industries: agricultural and construction, diesel engine and automotive, medium and heavy truck, and energy. Recreation and railroad industries look to Walker Forge when performance counts. It begins with special bar quality steel selected from approved mills. The chemistry is verified with each heat of steel to ensure it meets customer specifications at Walker's certified on-site metallurgical lab. Dies are designed and manufactured in-house, while closed die forging allows the company to produce a wide range of shapes. 16 different press lines, ranging in size from 850 tons up to 8,000 tons, located in 2 ISO-certified facilities, give Walker Forge the broadest range of mechanical presses among any competitors in North America. Walker's sister company, Precision Thermal Processing, works alongside them for heat treating. Services include normalize, quench and temper, annealing, and carburizing. Computer-controlled furnaces and the most advanced heat-treating equipment at PGP's ISO-certified facility deliver when the heat is on. To learn more about Walker Forge Incorporated, visit their website at walkerforge.com. This is John Criswell for Manufacturing Marvels.
Well, that's what we do. I will hazard a guess, although I can see faces that may have been at Walker Forge, that virtually no one will ever go to Walker Forge. But I still have to try and explain what we do. And yet, forging, casting down the street, a very large employer, I believe, works in the city of Waupaca. Cubic Designs, Sturm, that we all do exactly the same thing. We take something and turn it into something else that has value to someone else. And that value is a function of your ability to repeat that quality, your ability to deliver that quality, and your ability to price it where you're the most competitive. These are the customers that ultimately take our product. We have to use standard business practices, diversify your portfolio. Who even knows what that means? It means for us at Walker Forge, if oil is up, something else is going to be down. So if we could make parts for the oil field, it would be offset with parts for the car industry. Oil goes through the roof, cars shrink in size. So you can see a great many firms that you should recognize here. Everybody that lives in Waupaca County, we do not compete with Waupaca Foundry, okay? It is a casting. We are a forging. They can substitute each other, but it's all about design change. Waupaca Foundry would never want their casting where our forging is, and we would never want our forging where their casting is. We are separate. And yet, Waupaca Foundry is a very large customer of ours. We heat treat almost 10 million pounds of their castings every year. Let's see. I talked about talent and people. One of the ways that we have determined that we need to compete is to figure out how to do everything for ourselves. We're far from the real world in Clintonville, Wisconsin, no matter what the 1.5 did for our recognition. Okay, so we have to develop the people and the talent to do all the electrical work, the people and the talent to do all the mechanical work, including rebuilding forging presses. We have to create the people that can design the dies, the people that can build the dies, the tool and die makers, that nobody wants to be one anymore. And I believe it's because nobody actually knows what it is anymore. What is a tool and die maker? Perhaps people in this room who have been involved for many years know what that is. But if you walk into a high school in 11th grade, I don't think 1% of the children in 11th grade know what a tool and die maker is. And I'm grossly exaggerating to 1%. Okay, let's see. A new business in Waupaca County. How could we put together a new business? Steel's heavy. Steel needs to be treated to make it stronger, to make it better. We did something for ourselves. 4 years ago, we put a commercial business out there. It has grown by 1,000%, 10 times. So when I get to the end, I have some little facts. That's a new business that we had to fill. Tool and die making. We probably have $25 million in machine tools that sink dies for us and the people that run them. If I go down to hire people, I'm not going to find them, ever. So we had to adopt our own training and education program to make sure that we have that available. There's some common phrases in business. People talk about succession planning. What do you do when Dick Keppen retires? You have to have a plan. You vote for somebody, you groom somebody. Our succession planning is not for people, it's for equipment and people together. So I'll show you what we do there. Robots. One of the things we crossed in Clintonville, Wisconsin, robots are taking people's jobs. Oh, you're right, they are. Crappy jobs that no one wants to do anyway. As a matter of fact, starting with the day that we put in our first robot, and now we have 24, our employment has gone from 190 to 400. So I don't know where the jobs are going that these robots are taking. What they're doing is making us more competitive, producing a better product, enabling us to invest. And investment is what brings in jobs, but it's not bringing in jobs like it did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You're gonna have to think. That's it. We have a metallurgical laboratory. We just stumbled on it. There's a whole, here we are. I live in the Valley, work in Clintonville. As a matter of fact, you could say Dick and I grew up together from New York and Detroit. No one from New York and Detroit should ever end up in Northeast Wisconsin. It just doesn't make any sense. But he brought me along in Clintonville, and what a terrific place to manufacture stuff. And I'll tell you why. Here it is. This is really what it's all about. We get tremendous value from the people that work there. Not only are they hard working, which everybody says, what that means is that when the alarm goes off at 5:05 in the morning, everybody gets up and gets dressed and comes to work. That's what hard working is. In Detroit, the problems that they have now were the same problems they had 25 years ago when I worked there. They're not any different. When the alarm went off at 5:05, only 8 out of 10 people got up to come to work. That's why they're where they are today. They can say whatever they want. 8 out of 10 people got up to answer the call. 99.69% of the people at Walker Forge get up to answer the call over the last 10 years. Those are pretty incredible numbers. So that means you bring your best to work every single day when you get those kind of numbers. Small town company, Dick talked about city administration and the city. The city really doesn't pay any attention to us, and I'll talk about that. But we do have one person that pays an extraordinary amount of attention to us, and that is the city administrator. Without her, I don't think Walker Forge would actually have a manufacturing plant in Clintonville, Wisconsin. Here's some data. 400 employees. We can pretty much do the math. I'll do simple numbers so I can do them in my head. $20, 400, 2,000 hours a year. That's about $16 million a year in Clintonville, Wisconsin. 81% of those 400 people are Waupaca County residents. So they get paid here. What do they do with that money? My guess is they spend it here. An interesting thing in today's environment, people talk about redistribution. Guess what? 90% of the products that we make in Clintonville, Wisconsin get sold beyond the borders of Wisconsin. That means that somebody's money in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is being sent to Clintonville, Wisconsin. That means somebody's money in Houston, Texas is coming to Clintonville, Wisconsin. Over the last 11 years, Walker Forge has invested more than $110 million in the facility in Clintonville. I'm just driving down 54 here. Guess who moved all the earth over the last 3 years? I don't know Freddie Falks, but I sure do know all his equipment that's sitting out there because it was in our yard for the last 3 years. Cubic Designs, we probably have 10 mezzanines built by them. You know why? They are awesome. They are technologically advanced. They are fast. They are accurate. Anybody been there? I don't know. Maybe one person? 2 people? Let's see. The steel delivered. I noticed the geospatial program had the roads. Guess how Waupaca Foundry brings their scrap in and sends out their castings? Guess how Walker Forge brings in 189 million pounds of steel in 2012? We bring it in 20 to 25 flatbed truckloads a day, every working day of the year. Any idea who's bringing that steel in? A bunch of companies, but if you know the Jepson Company or the Ort Company, that's who brings it in. So we take our money and pay people in New London and in Clintonville and Madison. Let's see. Fox Valley Technical College. I should disclose I am a retired board of trustees for Fox Valley Technical College. But nevertheless, a recent presentation I did, I think you have a new satellite school in Waupaca, a satellite school in Clintonville, Wisconsin. Over the last 11 years, the Walker Forge employee base has participated in more than 150,000 hours of education. 150,000 hours. That's like 30 hours a person a year. And that's what we have to do to keep up with technology. Interestingly enough, there's a large number of employees of Fox Valley Technical College that live where? Waupaca County. We're in Clintonville, Wisconsin. Can't stay in Milwaukee and get there reasonably. As a matter of fact, you can't even stay in Appleton. A young firm called 3 or 4 years ago, the Cobblestone Group, and sent a perfectly lovely group, a couple out, 2 strategic marketing people. Guess what they asked us? How many customers do you have? How often do they come and visit? Do they stay long? Do you have people that come up here? So we provided them with scant data. And they took all that data back, probably talked to the other firms in Clintonville, Wisconsin. In 2012, over 800 night stays. That's on a working week. That's almost 3 and a quarter people a day stay overnight at the Cobblestone. Any idea where they eat? Anybody from Clintonville? Any idea where they eat? Just about every one of them eats at Matthew's Supper Club. As a matter of fact, there's so many people eating there that I think the Cobblestone is going to build a restaurant right next to it. That is called development. That is called opportunity. And more importantly, 15% of the employees at Walker Forge are all veterans of the armed forces of the United States. We find the best people and we put them to work. Can't stay there if you're not going to be the best. We let people go all the time, but that's because they don't want to be the best. We need people that want to be the best. We don't need much. We really don't. We need Lisa Kuss to keep paying attention to us. That's every city that has industry, that has manufacturing, has to have a person in government that is a direct contact. Because we don't have, don't take this wrong, we don't have the patience to wait for the speed of government. We need help now when we need it. And having a person that understands that, they can placate us, they can make it up, but they keep advancing the ball, and that's extremely important. Same with the Economic Development Corporation. They allow me to visit once a month, once a quarter, whatever, to at least say what I think. Right now, the biggest thing for every manufacturer, Waupaca Foundry, Sturms Food, is we have got to figure out how to get more talent in the kids that are going to school right now. We recruit right from this area. I don't know how it's going to happen. We participate in middle school, in grade school, in high school, in technical college. We have so many programs, it's unbelievable. But nevertheless. And I talked a little bit about Lisa Kuss. I talked a little bit about Dick when he was mayor and now at the board level. GIS. Do you know what I didn't see? I didn't see how it can help enterprise. I don't know these numbers exactly because they change all the time, but the two largest manufacturing states in the United States of America are the state of Indiana and state of Wisconsin. State of Wisconsin is probably somewhere between 21–24% manufacturing base. The interesting thing is when you look at what makes up the manufacturing base, it's very scary. Waupaca County might even lean more toward 30% at some particular times. The interesting thing is, Jepson Trucking, Econo Foods Donut Department, we consumed almost 8,500 donuts last year. Very impressive. Just saying. That's 8,500 donuts that don't get made if we're not there. All of that stuff. If you roll that up, I firmly believe that the broad brush portion of any counties, cities, or any municipalities' gross product, more than 50% of it is a function of manufacturing. Whether it's a lawyer, whether it's an accountant, all those people that are helping out, the Falks Group, Faith Technologies, Fox Valley Technical College, they are serving us as nothing more than a customer. But that is domestic product. And the 25–30% that manufacturing is quoted as bringing is woefully underestimated. I would suggest that even Mike Colas's Waupaca program is populated with a great many manufacturing people. We don't really need much, but in my opinion, clearly biased, we bring a lot. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer almost anything about Walker Forge.
Any questions for Mr. Rechtenwald? Mr. Penny?
Rick, is the plan is the plan in Clintonville, is that the biggest one that you have?
It is for now, but you know, I guess because everyone here is involved in government, you know, energy is a pretty big deal, and yet we don't really. It's a very weird thing in Wisconsin how it works. The energy in Tennessee is 2/3 of the price that it is in Clintonville, Wisconsin. I'm not going to tell you that that's not important to us. It is. And yet, to travel down to Seguinville, Tennessee, They don't have people that live in Waupaca County in Seguinville, Tennessee. So everything that we do, there's two words. These are the only two words we use ever, is leverage and risk. Those are the only two words we have. And right now, the largest risk that faces us is not being able to replace the people that we have at Walker Forge with people that want to work in manufacturing. That is by far, and you bring in Joey Leonard from Waupaca Foundry, he will tell you the exact same thing. And what can happen, or will happen, is Waupaca Foundry and Walker Forge will hack each other to death trying to secure that talent. And that will affect both companies badly. You just need more of it. And I think that when you look at all the schools that we visit, every level, there is not very much discussion about what manufacturing brings to a community, to a county, to a state. Gets nice talking points, but it really doesn't get its due. We bring a lot.
Rick, maybe this is confidential, I don't know, but I even hate to ask what your energy bill is in the city of Clintonville a monthly.
We average, and it's interesting, Waupaca Foundry may be the only firm that is close to us. Or they're obviously more because they're melting. We're just heating up prior to melt. We pay about $425,000 a month in electricity, which would mean that the Walker Forge energy consumption is greater than the entire Clintonville utility without us. Now, how many times have Clintonville Utilities been to Walker Forge in the last year? You know how many times they've been to Walker Forge in the last 2 years?
Any other questions? Don?
I listened to you talk about the labor force. We hear about all the high unemployment in this country, and you're talking about the need to acquire more labor. We aren't producing what is needed then. We've got a real problem, don't we?
We do, John. It is a real problem. That unemployment number is never going down because the people that are unemployed don't have the skills to get all the jobs that are available right now. They either need to retrain themselves or some fashion. They talk about the haves and have-nots in the United States of America. It's mostly the monetary side because that's what sells in the media. We have haves and have-nots. We have people that have skill and people that don't have skill. And we have little use for people that don't have skill or aren't willing to get it. It's insane. Look at and there must be at least a few farmers here. I talked to Dick from Waupaca, a milk cooperative. Look at his farm. There's like 12 people that do 3,000 cows. It's technology. There's nobody that works there that's just pitchfork and hay anymore. They're interacting with the geospatial information system to determine if the anaerobic digester is working to produce the kilowatt hours required to run his farm while selling the rest of his energy for a profit to around the county. That's not schlepping cow manure. And go ahead, try and sell corn if you don't happen to know the commodities future market. Now you have to be a farmer today, you have to be an information technology specialist. You have to be a lean manufacturing specialist. You have to be a commodities and futures trader. And you have to be a virtual CPA just to farm. It's not just manufacturing, it's everything. There's a guy who founded the Intel Corporation called Gordon Moore, and they talk about it called Moore's Law, and what it is the number of calculations that a chip can do goes up by like 1.5 times every 18 months. that phone that people have, it is 10 times as powerful as a computer that took up the size of this room when I started in computer science in the middle 70s. You can just hit it and it'll tell you exactly where you are. I don't know. Talent, talent, talent. Skill, skill, skill. We have to teach it and people want to have to learn it. And yet at the same time, maybe the single largest characteristic that makes a difference is enthusiasm. You have to be where you want to be. That's the difference. So,
Okay. Thank you so much, Rick. I had more information here in your time than I had in college than any professor. More.
And look where you are now.
I listened. Really, it was a great presentation, and thanks for coming through the bad weather. And
come up. Sit.
Thanks. Next, we'd like to have Mr. Colas come forth and talk about the Waupaca County Strategic Plan and UWX update.
I would have known the two speakers in front of me today, Mary. I might have had my presentation tabled here for crying out loud, competing with that. I've got two things. I've got to talk about the strategic plan retreat that you all were at in September, and then I do have our extension newsletter that comes out 3 times a year, and I'll walk you through that. Ironically, and not planned at all, and I didn't even know Rick was on the agenda until I printed out the agenda on Monday or Tuesday. The front article, which is always the person who is talking about this, and I haven't been up here in a while with regard to the newsletter, is about economic development.
Mike, we didn't get that newsletter up here.
You didn't?
No.
Roger, can you do me a favor? There are about 4 extras. Thank you, Mike. The newsletter lead article, Economic Development, was chosen because Dave Teal and I are getting more and more questions from communities about what in the world is economic development. And Rick pretty much just told you exactly what that all is, so I won't go into a lot of detail. He hit on some really great points. And what we recently told the City of Waupaca Council, a number of things, and what I told them was what is economic development. Dave talked about the regional and local connections, as well as Eric talking more about the regional connections. And me talking about it, I had a 4-page sheet, and you can't talk about economic development in 4 pages or the short amount of article that I have here for you, but a couple of points that I put on there. Economic development is not economic growth. And what we often think of as economic development, like adding jobs at a plant, if nothing else changes at that plant, that's only economic growth. Economic development is something very different. It's about change, and Rick talked about some of those changes. Like technology. You'll note when you read through this, you might have robotics that are making a plant more competitive, and they don't add a single job, or in some cases they may even decrease the jobs, but it makes them more competitive and they stay in that community. That's economic development. Very different than economic growth. The star that I have on the bottom there, one of my mentors in community economic development, and one of really 2 people who are considered fathers of economic development, community economic development, at least modern community economic development. A guy by the name of Ron Schaefer. Ron worked for President Reagan for part of the first term and part of the second term. He was his chief economic advisor when it came to rural economic development. He was also, in later years, a professor at Madison. He said, you really are talking about making changes in certain areas. And he noted those 5 areas in that, what is called Schaefer's star. Decision making is one of them. When Rick talks about decision making at city administration level, he's talking about better decision making. From a county board standpoint, how can you improve your decision making to make economic development better? He's talking about resources. Education is one of those resources. Technology is one of those resources. Public and private capital, natural resources, those are all economic development pieces. One of my examples in there is the Waupaca Foundry. And I know there's controversy about the sand mine. If the sand mine goes through, even if Waupaca Foundry doesn't add a job, it does make them stronger. That's economic development. The rules of the game. Can you change the rules of the game? One of the things that Rick said is that he probably wouldn't be here without their city administrator. She helped get the rules of the game changed when it came to a DNR wetland. Changing the rules of the game to allow for economic development to occur is an important piece. Societal change, preferences. The societal preferences really impact economic development. A great example of that is in the city of Waupaca. Their societal preferences led them to not have a Walmart here. Good or bad, depending on your perspective, but by and large, societal preferences impacted that decision to have that development go on the east side. And Denver did go out there, but then that benefits some of the downtown businesses. The markets. You saw Rick talk about 90% of their product revenue is sold to people outside of Waupaca County. That's about exporting goods and having money come in. The idea in making changes in your markets is to obviously expand those markets. So those are the 5 areas that economic development works to change. We're really talking about change, not just growth. Flip into the back page. I actually took up more than just the front page. You'll see another one of those things that I talked to the City Council about. Good community development is good economic development. We often think of economic development in terms of jobs. That's a very poor metric. Economic development often occurs in many other areas. And the quote there from Ron Schaefer, and this is from 20 years ago, he's long since gone. He talks about healthcare. He was way ahead of his time. If we have healthcare education in our businesses or provided by the public sector and you create a healthier labor force, not only does that decrease the cost of production for that manufacturing plant, it makes them more efficient. They don't have as high healthcare costs and an employee does more in that plant. And you can think of a whole host of examples of good community development, like having a strong education system. And more with the new generation, having a cool place to live. The people that are a lot younger than most of us in the room, although we do, I see, have some young people in the back, they choose to live based on whether or not it's a cool place to live. And so unless you're working on developing a cool community and the types of assets that the younger generation wants, that labor force challenge that Rick was talking about will continue and become even greater, especially in a rural county. A lot of the rural assets that we have are something that people like to come to, but they're also looking for nearby assets like you have in the Fox Valley. So we have to be attentive to what people want when we're thinking about community development. I usually don't talk this long on the newsletter, but I had to compete with Rick a little bit. The Schaefer 7, I won't mention that. Those are the 7 key strategies. They're pretty basic. Get money to come into your community, circulate that money more through local buying, increase resources, capital, natural resources, etc. You can read that. As far as the rest of the newsletter, we welcomed 2 new colleagues in the office, actually, within the last 6 weeks. And we're back to full steam in our office, full employment, and we haven't had that for about 13, 14 months. So it's nice to have those new colleagues in the office. The first one is a Waupaca County native, actually. Her name is Christy Belfus. Christy's originally from Waupaca, and she is our new nutrition educator. She is completely funded by the state and works with low-income populations to provide them health and nutrition, wellness education, so that they lead healthier lives. The research is there to support that the program is very effective, and that connects to that economic development that I was just talking about. Flipping to the middle there on the bottom right, you'll see that we also have a new family living educator. Sandy Lang is her name. Sandy is from the state of Ohio originally. She's got her bachelor's in psychology as well as a master's degree in child development and family studies. And she just started on November 15th, so she's been here, I guess, just over a month. And she's in the process of going out, as is Christy, and building relationships with the clientele throughout Waupaca County. Her 3 areas of program focus will likely be, as this showed up in our initial visioning assessment with the community, what they wanted us to work on: health, nutrition, food security, family financial planning. Bob, you're on her list of people to go talk to learn a little bit more about what those needs are. I know a lot of you come from a generation that learned that plastic isn't money and checkbooks need to be balanced. That's not always the case with a lot of families and younger generation today. She'll be working on a lot of that. And then parenting education as well. Parenting education is a big need in this county, given the high divorce rate and the number of grandparents that are raising their grandchildren without their actual mom and dads. And raising grandkids is a lot different than when they raised their kids. So she'll be working on those issues. Flipping up to our agriculture educator, Greg Blondie held a field days out at Arda Rita Richardson's farm this fall. One of our tried and true techniques is to get people out in the field. You can learn so much from being in the field. You can learn a little bit from being in a classroom. And Greg uses this strategy quite a bit. He was out there teaching a number of folks about pasture management. Art and Rita have transitioned from a dairy farm to a completely pasture beef operation. It allows for them to retire out of a pretty intensive labor situation that you have on a dairy farm and still be farmers, and he's having a lot of fun doing it. And he's highly efficient. By going to a pasture system, he raises more pounds of beef at lower cost. And he was teaching people how to do that, and Greg was reviewing the research on how to do that. Flipping over to the other and last 2 articles, 4-H celebrates its 100-year anniversary in 1914. Dick, I know you were around back then, so you might want to talk. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. They started off as youth and youth corn and egg clubs, and they have transitioned quite a bit from that over the course of 100 years. We do training on exactly the types of skills that Rick was talking about. We call it our STEM program: science, technology, engineering, and math. We teach leadership development. We teach team building, collaboration, citizenship, a lot of other things that weren't taught 100 years ago that are relevant to today's families, workers, and youth. And then finally, the countywide health assessment. For a number of years, we've partnered out of our office with Chuck's shop up on the 2nd floor, DHHS, to conduct what has to occur every 5 years, countywide health assessment. And in doing that, you assess the needs in the community and then consequently develop strategies to improve the health of our citizenry. Again, that's actually connected very strongly to economic development. 5 years ago, we were ranked 55th out of 72 counties, which is not all that good. We're 45th now, which is quite an improvement, and they've developed a significant number of strategies to deploy over the next 5 years to try to continue that enhancement of our health ranking. So that's the newsletter. Any questions on the newsletter? All right, I invite you to come by, meet Christy, meet Sandy, give them a call if you'd like to chat with them. They are 2, like I said, new young colleagues that are looking to orient themselves, and they'd love to meet with any of the supervisors. All right, flipping to the strategic plan, or I guess more appropriately, the county board retreat report. It's heavy, it's thick. I don't expect anybody's going to read any more, and I wouldn't myself. I'd recommend you don't read any more than the first page and a half. You know, I purposely didn't hand that out to the front row. I wanted to keep you in the dark like a mushroom. I also have some of those in the back, Roger. I did note that Roger hasn't been doing as much exercise lately either. I usually see him running on the way home, and I haven't seen that in recent days and months, which I guess you'd have to be crazy with the weather we've had. So you can pay. You can. Oh, is that what it is? On the inside of that, I guess it'd be the inside of the cover, page 1, page 2 and 3, you'll see a retreat summary. Real quickly, 2010, you created a mission and a vision. Those are your targets for this county board, this county government. The mission is on the wall behind Dick on the plaque. In order to achieve that, you've got to overcome some issues, take advantage of some opportunities. During the retreat, we reaffirmed that mission and vision, that indeed is the target, and we began to identify on the first day what those issues are that are preventing you from getting to that target. We did that in 2 fashions, first of all in small groups and then as department heads and as supervisors separately. All of that data was put together, and at the end of the first day, a number of department heads, about a half a dozen, assembled that data into like groups. All of that data, the statements, the assembled groups, is listed in here if you're interested. On the second day, after that initial synthesis, we asked small groups to identify a series of strategic questions. And those strategic questions then were prioritized. On that third page, you're going to see the prioritization. I'll read through those. The first one was about revenue. During that retreat, and if you had asked me if this was going to be part of the discussion beforehand, I would have told you absolutely not. But in the retreat, there was a significant discussion about how do we raise more revenue as a county to help provide for the services that we provide. That was number 1, 30 votes. The second one, what steps do we take to improve communication, education with the public and legislators? Who should be contacting our state legislators? That was a recognition that a lot of what affects us is done down at Madison. So how do we communicate with those legislators? And how do we get our clientele, all 54,000 taxpayers, to understand what we do? I think you've all run into situations with your constituents where they really don't understand what county government does. And if they don't understand what we do, they probably aren't going to be very supportive of us. Number 3 there, what do we need to do to take to determine what services we are providing that are already being provided in the private sector? 20 votes. I might need to reword that one because it's not worded correctly. But we get down to number 8, what benefits currently exist in terms of potential privatization. 2 of them showed up with regard to privatization, significant amount of interest in privatization. Because of the way the process worked, it wouldn't be fair to add 16 votes and 20 votes and say, hey, that's number 1, 36. Clearly, it's in the top tier. Some interest in privatization of whatever services could be privatized. It isn't number 1 on the list, but certainly in the top tier. The next one, cross-training opportunities. How do we create employees that could hold a couple of positions? Number 5, how do we balance employee morale with potential pay increases? This is really how do we reward employees given that we know we don't have resources every year like this year to pay them more. 6th one, that's about economic development. How do we encourage more private investment in this county? How do we engage in more economic development? Right now the county invests really in Dave Teal. How can we analyze technology efficiency and fund equipment and support? That was a recognition of those bells and whistles that make our minds spin around that Ian showed us about are more and more important. And unless we invest in those types of things, we'll find ourselves behind. Those were the strategic questions that you prioritized. Typically, the next step in what I would call a quasi-strategic planning effort, I wouldn't call this a full-fledged strategic planning effort, but in a quasi-strategic planning effort like this, the next step would be to identify how you go about addressing these questions. Usually each question has somewhere between 3 and 6 action strategies to be implemented over the next 3 to 5 years. They're identified, who is identified without a responsible person or team of people to implement that action, usually doesn't get done. And there's a timeline identified. There's an 80-20 rule when it comes to these types of strategies. 80% of the work gets done in the last 20% of the time, and unless you set a deadline, that last 20% never comes. That's typically what happens at this point. Dick and I have talked very briefly about this, and at some point, I don't know, in the near future we'll say, Dick and I will need to get together and come up with some ideas for consideration about how to move forward on these priority questions. Comments, questions?
Questions and comments? See none, Mike. We'll digest it, and thank you very much. All right. We're going to take a short break here, 5 minutes before we continue on. And we have a long agenda, so we'll take a short break. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, and great to see him back, Dave Newman would like to... Mr. Newman would like to say a few words.
That's enough.
Thank you, Chairman Keppen, and there will be a few words. I'd just like to extend to all of you my sincere thanks and appreciation for your patience during my absence. It was certainly unexpected, and my 34-minute and 23-second presentation is going to be reduced to under 2 minutes. To honor a friendship that goes back more than 50 years, I agreed to take a vacant faculty position at Great Plains Lutheran High School in Watertown, South Dakota, and I could talk all day about South Dakota, what an interesting place. But the only thing I really got to say is if they mention the glory years in South Dakota, they're not talking about the Lombardi era in Green Bay. They're referring to either the Eisenhower or the Reagan presidency. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. I only do this because a few of you ask, what have you been up to, Mr. Chairman, the last month or so, and just a few words on my travels again. Mr. O'Connell, I thought my job was done on the executive committee with the WCA as of September, but Mark has asked me to come back as the ex officio on our executive committee, only because he's going through a strategic planning movement, which I think I told you last month about, that wasn't going well. And I have to say that he knew that I would be a kind of a spokesman for what I thought should be done with the Wisconsin Counties Association office and the reorg, because my thoughts were the same as his, or his were the same as mine. And some of the new officers, of course, they get elected and they think they know how to run the WC office, and that is not the way that works. But I have to say that we had our board meeting last Thursday and Friday in Madison, and the reorganization plan of the Wisconsin Counties Association went through unanimously, and there were some changes that were made. Mr. Hockemer, that we've had here as your chief legislative man, associate, is now going to be kind of the roving legislative person, the counties, which he always did. And Kyle Christensen is going to be the top legislative aide. He's was formerly with Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance, is highly regarded at the Capitol, highly regarded in the governor's office, and he's going to lead the 6 lobbyists or legislative aides we have. And Michael Blaska, who you've seen here a couple of times, a veteran with WCA, has been named Chief of Staff for Mark. And in other words, when Mark's out of the office, this man will be handling all the business or questions they may have. So it went over good. And I got rid of that job, but then I was elected to the Wisconsin Counties Mutual Insurance Board, which we had our meeting December 5th in Green Lake. And that'll start another learning experience of getting to know the insurance game. So I just have to say, and you know, that the Wisconsin County Mutual returned $750,000 in dividends to the 53-member counties. Had a good year. I didn't know that we had a community insurance group, a part of the Wisconsin Counties Mutual that insures school districts and also municipalities. We're in that business now too. And of course the GHT is a group health trust that has been around and does insure counties. And of course, I'm already feeling some pressure. Of course, Waupaca County doesn't use the group health trust, We in turn have an advisor that comes in here and advises us what company to go with for the best price. And and he also gets a kickback, I should say, from, I should say a commission, I guess. It was used the other way, from those companies that he gets Waupaca County to use, where GHT does not do this, and that's why he wouldn't recommend GHT. So, at any rate, I do have to say at our board meeting in Madison last week, Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish spoke to us in the morning, and just a few highlights. Wisconsin now has a $2.7 billion surplus, and in the last year unemployment claims are down 17%. And of course, this is that side of the story, side of the aisle talking. And I also mentioned that was really talking about small businesses. Small businesses make up about 70 to 80% of all people working today. And small business is so very important. We hear about the big industries, as Rick talked about, but there are many of us that are in small business, and small businesses really contribute a lot to society and to the economic game. As you'll probably hear later, there will be consideration for a newspaper, county newspaper, and I was reminded that the entities being considered are small businesses, and they also are Waupaca County small businesses. So the other thing is, too, that the Wisconsin Counties Association is being sued. We're being sued by the Wisconsin Professional Police Association, and because they are demanding an open records request. And this all stems back from the time that that association is claiming that the WCA has been promoting that the jailers are protective people, protective status. That is not so. WCA said whatever way any county goes, that's their business. It's not that. Because we share the same attorney, that's why we be blamed. And Mark O'Connell says he received some of the most terrible letters ever from that association that he's ever had in his career. Also, the last thing, we're proud to announce that Outagamie County came back with the WCA after 3 years. When I was the president, I could not get them back, and now that I'm out, they're back. So that's a good thing. However, we had a fight to keep Dane County in. Dane County had a little problem with the WCA and some of the things we were saying about the present administration in Madison. Of course, they're mostly Democratic there, and a couple mentions by WCA staff and board members got them really upset and said that we are middle of the aisle, and we are, and they were leaving. However, Mark O'Connell spent a half a day down to Dane County and got them to rejoin. So Wisconsin County is back to 72 full counties. So that's my report. On with the meeting. Next, we have report number 14, Veteran Service Officer Wayne Knutsen's annual report.
Do you have somebody who doesn't need this to go ahead and then I'll come in when this gets going?
Well, the rest is going down. The rest is going down to businesses here.
It's done, Mary. It's at 100%. Okay.
Oh, okay. But I only gotta sign it.
Thank you, Pat. You did a good job.
Oh, it just went like crazy. 100%.
Pay attention, management team, that we need for next year's budget, please.
Wayne, can I ask you a question while you're waiting for that? I noticed on your report you didn't typically get the list of the dead veterans. Is there a reason? Yeah.
I thought it was just a filler that the previous.
Oh.
If you want it back in, I can, but I just thought it was
Oh.
probably what's in the report you need to hear.
Okay, I liked to see that. I don't know if the rest of them did.
You like it?
Yeah.
I'll get it back in next year. I have it upstairs.
Thank you, okay.
You like that?
What we could do with your permission, with county board's permission, while they're getting this up and going here, resolution 35, if you don't mind, we'll address right now. We have some students back there that are missing school, and they really told me they really want to get back to school. And so we'd like to have Roger Holman come forth with those students so they can, yes? Yes, those students beg to get back to school. Sorry.
Do you want a motion on that first, on that resolution?
Okay.
Right.
Okay, well, we need a motion then, if we can move that up to right now on resolution number 35, commitment to inspire sustainability in the county of Waupaca. There is a motion by Mr. Sorensen, a second by Mr. Peterson. To move this up, please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0. 2 supervisors have been excused.
Okay. Thank you. First off, I'd like to note that in the back of the room we have some guests here. We have a whole group of people who are here from working for Waupaca County, working together for Waupaca County. So I'm not going to try to rattle off all their names because there's about 5 of them back there. Probably just as important, if not more importantly, we actually have some students who have joined us today on this sustainability resolution. And Ian Field is from the Manawa High School area. Yeah, thank you. Stand up, Ian. Ian is currently working on a forest plan for his school district, so he's got himself a pretty big job he's going to be working on here. And then we have Monte Mueller, who is the vice president of the Waupaca Green Team. And with him also on the Green Team is Brock Navin, and they are with the Waupaca High School. These students, and in the past you've seen other students here, have been very involved with working at different areas of sustainability. That the Waupaca High School, if you drive by there, you'll see that they have solar panels put up out there. It was the students who caused that to happen. They got together and said, we need to do something to provide for the future. And so they do this and other similar type projects. Working on a forest plan is another similar thing that you do because you're working towards sustainability of a forest area. So it was really good that they came in here today, and thank you for moving them up because they really should be in the classroom, but I guess this education is just as good. Sustainability, and you've talked about it before, this is not the first time you've heard about it, but basically sustainability is working to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In other words, taking care of what we have so that when tomorrow comes, our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and so on will have something to work with. Not using up everything we have, planning so that when we do something, the impacts will be limited. The impacts will be the type of impacts that are positive. So if we harvest trees, we plant trees. If we can, we recover materials so that we can use it over and over. We recycle. We do all those type of things that make it possible for our future generations to actually have a future. And that's what sustainability is. That's what the commitment is. Now, the funny thing is, when I took this to Solid Waste Board, they asked me to change it to inspire sustainability for a very good reason. Thank you, Joyce. And that's because we're already doing this. And if you check with the departments throughout the county, the committees throughout the county, this has been happening for quite some time. As an example, Leighton and his property committee went through and retrofitted all the lighting in this building. Now, not only was there a cost savings, but there was an energy savings, and it was considerable. And I don't have numbers on that, but I do know that Leighton was very happy to find out that he had more money in his budget the next year than he had anticipated. They also went after the heating system, the boilers, those type of things, and they keep doing this. They keep upgrading. Recently, he put a new roof on the top of this building. The roof he put on there has more insulation on it, so therefore we're going to have a more positive impact on our heating and cooling. Those type of things you do allows you more sustainability. Not to leave Dean alone back there, but the Highway Committee and Dean have been doing stuff like this for years. A number of years ago, they started weatherizing that 1936 building. And because of that, they've cut their heating costs, their energy demands, and they continue to work in that area. They continue to look at I think you replaced the roof. They've done other things like that, the lighting. Until they can replace that building, they found a way to save energy, to lower their cost. And I think Dean's actually looking at that right now to see what kind of savings they've come up with there. So that's been great. The other thing, though, is you've been approving for years the building of roads. Well, the way Dean and the Highway Committee are building those roads, they're more sustainable. They're building roads that will last longer, not 15 years, hopefully 20 years, 25 years. In other words, you keep those roads, you build them the right way. You don't have to come back and keep replacing them, rebuilding them. You've got roads that down the road further, all you have to do is come back and work them back up so that they're in good condition. That's sustainability. That's putting something in that will last longer, using fewer materials. And I know, Dean, that you work very hard at reclaiming material because you use it over and over and over. That actually is another example of sustainability. Solid Waste Board. They upgraded the lighting, the heating. Jack, you were on the board at the time. You questioned every time I turned around why I was coming in with new lighting options out there. Well, we found out we saved a lot of money doing that. Heating system, we cut our cost by, I think it was a half, by going to a different type of system. We also, of course, are responsible for recovery of tons of material. And I won't sit here and give you those numbers, but you know that over the years, the 20 years that we've been in existence out there, we have recovered a lot of material that, again, that's sustainability, work in that direction. And then Brian and the Land and Water Conservation Committee, the list is really long there. I could go on and on with all the work they've done preserving and protecting land and water. The projects, the stuff they work on, that's the goal behind it. We're making the system out there that will provide for the future. And of course, the conservation easements, those conservation easements are going to provide farmland for the future. They're going to provide for our future generations. And those are important too, again, sustainability. So in the end, when you look at the whole thing and everything we've done, we're already there. So when Joyce said to me, we really should just let people know we've been doing this, let's just tell them we want to inspire. And that's basically what the resolution says. The resolution says we are committed to inspiring so that in the future, our future generations will have what they need to meet their basic needs.
Roger? I wanted to use the word inspire rather than mandate.
Right.
So.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
That's it. Any questions? Supervisor Craig?
I was going to move to approve.
There's a motion by Supervisor Craig to approve and a second by Supervisor Ellis. Any questions or discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Thank you very much for coming, students, and I imagine teachers, and you are our future leaders. Great job so far. Keep her going. Thank you. Now we'll go to Mr. Knutson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Ryan. I just wanted to step back a bit this year just to make sure we all understand why there is a Veterans Services. Go ahead. This is a quote from President Lincoln's second inaugural address. I like to think it had something to do with the establishment of a Veterans Services. This Wisconsin statute definitely was one reason we have a Veterans Services. And the action taken by the county board in 1934 was definitely another reason why we have a Veterans Services Department. Even without the state statute, I would hope the county board would have established a Veterans Services because it's the right thing to do. Throughout the years, our veterans have defended us and they have protected us. Throughout the years, hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost for us. And many more have endured hardships beyond comprehension. We owe our veterans immensely. Now, the Veterans Service Department isn't known as a revenue-making department. If you look at our budget, you will see the only revenue that shows up on there as a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs for $11,500. I'm going to show you that we do have a significant amount of revenue, which is another plus for having a Veterans Services Department. These are some figures from some of the work we've done just in the last year. Is there any questions with this slide? Good. Nearly $22 million comes into the county each year just in compensation and pension awards. Good. This $22 million creates an additional 319 jobs in Waupaca County because more goods and services are needed. These 319 jobs create a total income of over $19 million. It creates an industry sales of over $33 million and a veteran sales tax impact of $43,000. It also accounts for a property tax impact of $168,000. Now, I've taken those figures and I've added in the estimated sales tax from the original $22 million coming in, and I've added in the WDVA grant. You can see we're coming out of surplus $52,000. Now this still isn't counting health benefits, burial benefits, education benefits, and the life insurance that our veterans are getting. Nor is it counting the additional property tax caused by the $22 million in compensation and pension awards. Turning to the Veterans Service Commission, we had 18 grants applied for last year. 15 were approved, 3 were denied. The 3 that were denied is because we found another means to help the veteran. Highlights and review, next one. Highlights and review, the mission and responsibilities. It's written out in the annual report, and it's also in this brochure I gave you. The bottom line is we want to make sure our veterans are getting the benefits they're entitled to, and their family members are getting the benefits they're entitled to. Wounded Warrior Project. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Last year I had a call from a wife of a veteran. She was crying on the phone and explaining how the roof was leaking and how the children are always sick. Her husband was an Iraqi veteran. He was a 70% disabled veteran. I called Rick Johnson, an attorney at the First National Bank and also a veteran. He had a band of Good Samaritans ready to go to work. A home inspection was done that revealed other issues with mold, insulation, plumbing, and electric. We wanted to make sure the house was worthy of a new roof before we went to work. The inspection revealed that it was. A fund was set up that quickly raised over $8,000. We were able to put on a new steel roof and fix other discrepancies with the funds and a lot of donated work and materials. The next one, relationships with community services. We're working with services such as the Community Action Plan, most people know it as CAP, and the Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program to provide furnaces and winterization assistance and various other home repairs. Another program, Heat for Heroes, just got its start probably in September of this year. I love this program because it doesn't look at your income. Well, it looks at your income, but it looks at the total picture of what's going on. Not like energy services where your income's too high, we can't help you. If your income's too high, they're going to look at everything else. A case in point, I had a veteran whose wife just passed away. His business was failing. He made a decent income, but they were still able to help him with a tank of LP gas. So, Veterans Assistance Foundation. This program's been around a while, but it wasn't until this year that it expanded into Waupaca County. This program helps our homeless veterans and our veterans in danger of becoming homeless. Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs made the list because of the grant we applied for and got of the $11,500. The military show in Iola. 2 years ago, after I first started working here, I went to the military show in Iola. I thought, what a wonderful place to do some outreach. I put in for a booth last year and got it, and the response was phenomenal. This program will be continued. Waupaca County Fair. Every year we have a veterans program at the county fair to honor our veterans. Embarrassingly, we charge our veterans to get in. We need to find other solutions. I spoke with Dave Johnson, informed me today that changes are on their way. Get the word out. Last year, as I was going through cancer treatments at the Martha Seekman Cancer Center in Appleton, I saw a guy wearing a U.S. Marines hat. I went over and I introduced myself. I found out the guy had lung cancer. I found out he was a Vietnam vet. I found out he was a Waupaca County resident. The next day, we got his compensation paperwork going. This enabled him to get approximately $3,000 a month in income tax-free, which came in handy because he couldn't work. We also got his VA health care going. This allowed him to stop worrying about paying his medical bills. They're taken care of. Unfortunately, this veteran lost his battle with cancer last September. A call to the coroner's office ensured that the cause of death on the death certificate reflected military chemicals. Agent Orange is a presumptive for causing lung cancer for our Vietnam veterans. Because of this, his wife was entitled to dependency and indemnity compensation, government health insurance, and some burial cost. She will also be entitled to the Wisconsin state property tax credit. I often wonder how different life would be for the surviving spouse had we not crossed paths that day. This one almost slipped through the cracks. I'm sure there's some out there that are. I need your help in getting the word out. I gave each of you one of these brochures. I ask you to take it with you and give it to a veteran. We also have a new website. I didn't like the website we had. I had some ideas. I was looking at other counties. I kept getting pulled away for other projects. It was taking me forever to get on with this website. Cindy and up in our office took the project by the horns, got a hold of Randy, and they produced a fantastic website that I'm very proud of. I think it's the best Veterans Services website in the state. Another new thing that's happening is called, I don't know how it got this name, but New VetMaster Database. We wanted a database that was called a VetRespect that most CVSO offices have, but it was kind of costly. IS said, give us a crack at it. We did. We're going to roll this out on December 30th. The good thing about, we were using the AS400. The good thing about this database is I can go to Clintonville, I can go to New London, I can go to King, I can go to any expo. And as long as I've got internet access, I can get into the database and get the answers out. That's my presentation. Are there any questions?
Wayne?
Yes.
I think you gave a comprehensive report, but there's one major page missing, in my opinion. I think it was titled TAPS.
Yes.
Veterans that have passed away from the last report.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why that was not included.
I decided to take it out. I wanted to get to the important stuff, but I'll be more than happy to put it in next year. I do have the listing up there.
I deem that report to be as equally as important as anything else in here.
Okay.
Any other questions for Wayne? Wayne, I want to thank you very much, and thanks for the great job you do for us.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go down to ordinances or amendments to the General Code of Ordinance. 11A, amend ordinance number 45, comprehensive plan amendments for the town of Dayton and the town of Helvetia.
This is also tied to resolution number 33. So the resolution would be your motion, so we can just take these together. This is for both townships of Dayton and town of Helvetia, amending their attached comprehensive plan amendments, which were in your packet.
There's a motion by Supervisor Penny and a second by Supervisor Ellis. Discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Item B, Chapter 34, Z-10-13, Town of Helvetia, Section 4, from a PVRF district to an RR district to accommodate a land division.
It's in your packet, so go ahead.
There's a motion by Supervisor Gerald Murphy and a second by Supervisor Bob Ellis. Discussion? Questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Item C is Chapter 34, Z-11-13, Town of Caledonia, Section 14, from a PVRF district to a AWT district, property line adjustment. Motion by Supervisor Johnson and a second by Supervisor Ellis. Discussion? Questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Eleven D is Chapter 34, Z-12-13, Town of Lind, Section 24, AR District to a AE District to combine two adjoining parcels to make them one zoning district. There's a motion by Supervisor McClone and a second by Supervisor Handrick. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Last chance to vote. I'm missing somebody. Fred? Carried 25-0.
Let's go to the Town of Scandinavia. 11E, Chapter 34, Z-13-13, Town of Scandinavia, Section 35. From a PVRF district to a AE district to adjust property line, county zoning ordinance. Adjust your property line. Motion by Supervisor Quisman and a second by Supervisor Terry Murphy. Any discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Create Chapter 48, Mobile Service Facilities and Support Structures, and repeal Section 12 of Waupaca County Zoning Ordinance.
And also, I just wanted for your note, there were some typographical corrections or updates, and if you want to receive a copy of that, zoning office said they're available. Some are like just within 10 days, they spelled out the word 10. $100, they spelled out the word 145, things like that. Nothing that changes any context.
Do I see a motion? The motion by Supervisor Dave Johnson, second by Supervisor Gary Barrington. Discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
And item G, Mary, Waupaca County Planning and Zoning Fee Schedule, information only.
Yes, this is just something that was asked to bring to your attention every month when they changed the fee schedule. You had passed a resolution that they had the authority to do that, so that's just in for packet information.
Excuse me. Let us go down to number 12 resolutions. Resolution number 30, 13-14, Department of Health and Human Services Initial Assessment Social Worker.
Resolution number 30. Now therefore let it be resolved that Waupaca County Board of Supervisors authorizes the Health and Human Services Department hire a new initial assessment worker, social worker classification, grade level 9, effective with passage of this resolution. Be it further resolved that the calculated cost of an entry-level social worker with fringe benefits is approximately $63,489.65, with the cost of a new position budgeted with the current organizational effectiveness evaluating process for child and youth services.
There's a motion by Supervisor Gerald Murphy, and a second by Supervisor Mary Kay Pullman. Any questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Excuse me. Next resolution, I know there's going to be some discussion, so I'm going to get it on the board floor.
Now therefore be it resolved that Waupaca County Board of Supervisors selects the County Post East and West as the official newspaper for the publication of legal notices and for publication of the County Board monthly proceedings minutes in Waupaca County. And further resolved that the county furnish each county supervisor with one paid subscription to any of the papers located in Waupaca County.
We have a motion and a second. So motion by Fred, second by Mr. Penny. Discussion. Mr. Chrisman.
I can't quite understand why we are deviating from what we've been doing for many years, and that's rotating this process by going from one newspaper to the other. What brought on this?
The fact that there, out of 72 counties, 34 other counties use one local paper to put all their notifications in. I think a lot of it had to do with things are posted on the web now. How do we get the information out to the most people? So we were looking at circulation rather than going to the local papers. Once they were combined, we lost a lot of them. So I think this was just to make it so that we had one paper that everybody in the county posts to for legal purposes. They can put it in any other paper they want, but it was just to have one with the most circulation. That's how this came about.
I can't see where we're gonna gain anything by leaving out two business people that are local, that are locally owned. I just can't see any sense in this. With the web and so on and so forth, I don't think it makes a big difference. I can't support this resolution.
Vice Chair Lauren.
I've been given this resolution some thought, and I'll admit that I voted for it, but for the reason of circulation. But after a little more thought, maybe we ought to reconsider. We have Dave Thiel, our Economic Development Director, encouraging and helping new businesses get started and helping existing small or large with ideas and loans if needed. Mike Coles with his community development help to revitalize our small communities. Both are working very hard to make this a better area and county. We should be working with them. This resolution indicates we are working against them, what they are trying to accomplish. These small newspapers are not looking for a loan, they're looking for a chance. We are setting a very poor example. Our duty is to assign an official newspaper for our legal ads. We don't have to put it in the largest circulation. And I think we should be fair and give them all the same opportunity.
Supervisor, please.
What are we talking about? What do we spend a year on this different ads roughly?
Approximately $20,000 to $22,000.
I think too, those should be moved around the county.
Supervisor Barrington?
Thank you. I also voted for it in committee, but after reading the position paper supplied by the various vendors, I agree. I think that we should go back to the original way we did it, and I will be voting in the negative on this resolution. Thank you.
Supervisor McClellan?
I totally support Mr. Barrington and Mr. Fleece with what they said about that amount of money. That's a significant amount for a small newspaper, and the difference of making the year, not making the year. So are we rotating among how many, 5 or 3 or?
Yeah, the east, west, Clintonville. Well, this will be Clintonville's first chance at it too. They're new to the circulation, and Marion.
Clintonville owns Manawa also, right?
Yeah,
Or is that the same?
they haven't reached their circulation though to become an official paper yet though. So.
I support rotating it. Thank you.
Supervisor Craig?
I was in favor, and still am in favor of the resolution as it stands, but the last sentence I would like to amend. If we are going to, if this is defeated and we're going to rotate around the county, as it was in the previous years, the county board supervisors got the subscription to that newspaper so that we could learn about Marion, so that we could learn about Clintonville, so that we could learn about New London, as well as them learning about what we do. So I would like to amend the last sentence to read that the county furnish each county supervisor with the paid subscription to the official newspaper that we have designated. That way we're reading what we're putting in that paper, and we're reading about their community. So I move if anyone chooses to second.
Don Morgan?
I'll second that.
Motion is to change the further be it resolved that the county furnish each county supervisor with one paid subscription to the official, the appointed official newspaper.
Everybody understand? So we're going to vote on that right now. So we're going to vote on, yes, Mr. Chrisman.
And if this motion is defeated, then where we stand?
Then it's back to furnish with one paid subscription. We still aren't voting on the main motion yet. That's kind of confusing.
Okay, this is just the
This is just an amendment to
subscription
that.
part of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever it may be.
Yeah.
Any
Whoever
other,
it may be.
any other questions? Please vote.
It's just the amendment part.
Just the amendment.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 19-6.
Up here, I'm speaking as Representative Supervisor 3 in Clintonville, District 3. I happen to know the publishers of all these papers, and I'm a newspaper reader, being in the newspaper field for 24 years at one time. And I have a pile of newspapers beside of my chair because Nancy and I don't talk much. So I get a chance to read all the community newspapers, whether I get them as the county official paper or not. And I enjoy every one of them. Pat Craig said it best, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoy reading what's happening in that community. And I know that every community publisher puts in a lot of time and effort to talk about their own community in positive ways and making their community a better community. And I really enjoy seeing what's going on, even though, like someone said, we don't know a lot of people in Marion. I happen to, but it's interesting to see what's going on, and also in Clintonville. And as Lieutenant Governor Clayfish told us, small businesses make the economy. And here we got small businesses, Waupaca County businesses, that We all struggle to make a go of it, and they intend to help each community, and they deserve a chance to be rotated. And this is coming from Supervisor 3, District of Clintonville. Now I'll go back to my other hat. Any other comments? Supervisor Morgan.
Just a question, is the goal of the publication to get the largest amount of people to gather the information? Is that our goal?
That's the reason for appointing an official paper.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Penny.
I myself like the resolution as it stands. I know from a monetary standpoint, I can see the concern of the paper in Marion and the paper in Clintonville, but the greatest share of these people that live in these areas that get that paper also get the Waupaca County Post East, which covers everything. And I think with the East and West, that we have the coverage, and the greatest amount of people that live in Waupaca County are getting the opportunity to read those various things that apply to Waupaca County.
Supervisor Muck.
Are we going to save any money on changing the rotation to just one paper, or, I mean, is this an economical decision?
Well, what typically happens, the only way you'd save money is if, say, like this year, the past year, the Marion Advertiser was the official paper, we would then put it in other papers if we wanted to get more coverage, so that would be the added expense. But you might do that anyway, so.
Supervisor Craig, second time.
Indeed it is. This time I'm speaking to the major resolution that we have. And I was totally in favor when we had our 7 little newspapers that covered our 7 communities, because then I learned about all the different communities, and I thought they learned about us. And then when a lot of them got bought out by the County Post East and West, if you take those 2 papers, and I happen to, you notice that they devote pages to Manawa, they devote pages to Iola. They have tried to put those small communities within their newspaper by itself. People in the region, of course, are upset because they don't have their own newspaper. The Manawa people still want their Manawa paper, as versus having the County Post East cover it, and now Clintonville has started to cover that. So it's a real concern in the sense that I can see why we would want to go to the small communities, and I love the Marion paper. I think that they are the best of all. The paper is this wide, and the pictures of the kids are huge. I love it. They're what a newspaper used to be. But I am going to vote for this as it stands, because I think right now the County Post East and West do cover the majority of our county. They do have subscribers all over. And while I understand that Clintonville and Marion, of course, want the revenue too, because they are small businesses, the way I see it, this does not say that we're designating them forever. This is this next year that we're designating them for, and next year can come up and we can decide to change it to Clintonville or whoever in the circulation that it might be. Thank you.
Where are we at with the normal rotation? Normally, who would we give it
Next
to?
year will be, Clintonville would be its first time.
Mr. Questman.
I think we still have to maintain the thought that if we vote for this just flies in the face of supporting our local hometown businesses, and I can't see why we would do that.
Any other comments before we vote? You want to explain the motion so we all understand?
The main motion now is to approve the resolution with the amendment to number further resolve that each county supervisor with one paid subscription to the official paper. And so you will be approving making Waupaca County Board East and West the official newspaper. That's what the motion is. If you vote yes, it means you want to keep only this one official paper. If you vote no, it means you want to circulate it.
Everybody understand? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. The motion is defeated, 9-16. We will rotate our papers.
Okay, thank you, people. Next item is resolution number 32, support for financial support for Economic Development Corporation. Sorry, I'm not rushing you. Got all afternoon here, so.
Now therefore, be it resolved that Waupaca County Board of Supervisors hereby supports a proposal originating from the Southwest Wisconsin region requesting that the state of Wisconsin provide financial assistance to counties supporting economic development organizations in the form of a grant award of up to $24,000 per year to eligible county governments for eventual transfer to their designated county economic development organizations.
So motion by Supervisor Quisman for approval, and a second by Supervisor Zog. Any discussions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 25-0.
Same as above. Resolution 33, we already did. I was informed. So resolution number 34. 1314 is a highway department to eliminate one patrol superintendent and create one field operations manager / deputy highway commissioner position.
That pretty much says that now therefore let it be resolved that the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors approves the elimination of the one highway patrol superintendent position and creating one field operations manager / deputy highway commissioner position at grade 15.
There's a motion for approval by Supervisor Fleece and a second by Supervisor Peterson. Any discussion or questions on this issue?
What is the cost of this position? Do we know?
Mr. Steingraber? Any other questions?
That wasn't an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Kay.
I guess I didn't really find out the amount, but
I think it's close to $100,000 with his wages, the truck, the benefits, the whole thing.
I have to mention, it's a part of their strategic planning, and I have to give Mr. Steingraber and Bob Fleece, their chairman, a lot of credit for looking towards strategic planning. You've heard the term a lot. We went through a retreat talking about that. Strategic planning generally to many people, including myself, is scary because it means changes. It looks towards the future of what we need to see Waupaca County be like 5, 10, 15 years from now. It's hard to do, but as a business person, you have to do that. You can't just plod along day at a time. And Mr. Steingraber really did a great job moving ahead with the help of Mr. Colas. And I've been a part of strategic planning at Shawano Medical Center back in the mid-2000s. It didn't work because we had the wrong board, we had the wrong CEO. Well, 4 years ago it worked with a new CEO and a new board. And we're building a $51 million hospital as we're talking. We're moving ahead in healthcare, and we joined Theta Care. Wisconsin counties, as I just told you about, it didn't want to work because of some new officers we elected, and they didn't believe changes are necessary. Mark O'Connell did, I did, and it got done. And Wisconsin counties is going to be more efficient, it's going to be better serving because of strategic planning. And I have to tell you, And Health and Human Services did their own. When Chuck came aboard and with the help of Jared Murphy. They did it in their quiet way. They made a lot of changes up there for the betterment of the second floor. And I congratulate those departments that have done that. So that's my little bit about strategic planning, and it's a scary term, but it's for the benefit and the betterment. Please vote.
I wish to abstain, Mr. Chairman.
One abstention.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 24-0 with Supervisor Penny abstaining.
We're down to resolution number 36, 13-14, creation of a new nonpartisan procedures for the preparation of the legislative and congressional redistricting plans. It's a motion by Supervisor Kussman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak against that.
Well, wait till we get a second. Mr. Zaw, we need a second. There's a second by Mary Kay Pullman. Yes, sir.
No, Mr. Chairman, I speak against this because elections have consequences, and to the victors go the spoils in our two-party system. If the shoe was on the other foot, I doubt if this 1.9 million would have been even spent in suing because they didn't like the result of the election. There has been some talk about this, but as long as our two-party system has been running, this is how things are done every 10 years, and in most cases, it goes through fine. So I speak against it.
Thank you, Mr. Zog. Any other comments or discussion? Supervisor Craig.
There is no media, but they always tell me they want me to say why I'm going to vote no. So my reason in voting against this is I agree that this has been, and not because it's tradition, but this is the way it's been. When the Democrats are in power, they get to redistrict. When the Republicans are in power, they get to district. Now, who's going to be creating this new nonpartisan procedure? Does anybody suspect that it's going to be totally nonpartisan? I don't think that is going to happen, and so I can't see that whether we say yes or no to this particular resolution, that it's going to have an effect. And I just think the way that we as county board, when we redistrict, I remember the day when we had someone who had nothing to do with us redistrict. Wow. I mean, Royalton wasn't kept within its boundaries, so I was taking part of this one, part of that one. Certainly my district would have changed, and I argued for the similarity of the people that I represent when they're from my township. So sometimes those things happen on the state level too, where you want to keep the district that you have, and this would influence the representatives, and I totally understand why people would like to change this, but my vote at this particular time is no. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Craig. Other comments? Supervisor Barrington.
I agree with the two speakers. Redistricting is a result of an election, and I guess it should continue to be that way.
Any other questions, or do you have Supervisor Morgan?
Well, I support the positions of the previous people who spoke on it.
The no or the yes?
I'll be voting no.
Any other discussion? Was there a question?
What, if we vote yes, what am I saying?
You want a nonpartisan. Yes, you want nonpartisan to redistrict, and a no would be that we leave it the way it is. This is just to support legislation. This hasn't even gone anywhere, but Legislative and Judicial and Executive Ethics and Safety Security Committee brought this forward from another county.
Anybody else? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion is defeated, 6-19.
Clerk Robbins, we're down to appointments. What do you have for us?
The Owls Board to reappoint Linda Hagan for a 3-year term. Your local emergency planning committee, Terry Brooks, to replace Linda Boehm, who's retiring. That's a public health nurse. Farmland Preservation Planning Steering Committee, and the list was enclosed. County Board Ad Hoc Study Committee that our County Board Chair has formed. Jim Lawhern will be the chair of that committee. Gary Barrington, Don Morgan, Pat Craig, and Dwayne Federitz. Advisors Heidi Dombrowski, Mary Robbins, and Jeff Seward. And then since we are joining the North Central ITBEC Board, the Chair would like to appoint Dennis Kussman, Fred Zog, Terry Schultz, and Jeff Anderson to the tourism part.
Is there a motion for approval? A motion by Supervisor Kussman and a second by Supervisor Zog. Any discussion or questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 24-1 nay. Now, if there's a particular appointment he's in.
We'll never know. Any announcements or correspondence, Clerk Robbins, that you want to make note of?
No, everything should have been in your packet. Just Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say congratulations to Mary Kay Pullman for being on a NACO steering committee. That is the first person from the regular county board floor that has done that.
Very nice.
Way to go.
With that, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and all that type of good thing. And please drive careful. And I just saw Don Aschen make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Handrick. Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Carried 25-0. The meeting is adjourned.